If Luke eats 20 eggs in 1 hour, that means that Luke loses the bet and George wins the bet. Luke ate 15 eggs in the first 10 minutes. Did Luke eat 15 eggs in the first 10 minutes? Yes, he did. He ate 15 eggs in the first 10 minutes. What did Luke do in the first 10 minutes? Well, he ate 15 eggs.
Hi, welcome to the vocabulary lesson for the conversation earthquakes. In this conversation, Joe and I are talking about different earthquakes that we've both experienced. So let's start with the conversation. Joe starts off by saying, "Hey." Now, hey, this is just a filler word. It really has no meaning here except for Joe trying to get my attention. Joe goes on to say, "Check this out." Check this out. Check this out means listen to this. Check this out. An example of check this out would be, Scott said, "Check this out. I got 2 free tickets to the Rolling Stones concert." Check this out. Then Joe goes on to say, "You know what Eric asked me when I got into work this morning?" You know. This is short for you know. You won't see this in written English, but you will hear it in conversational English. You know. And then I say, "I have no idea. What did he ask?" I have no idea, or have no idea. It means do not know. I do not know. For example, I have no idea how I'm going to make time each day to exercise. Have no idea. And then Joe says, "He asked me if I felt the earthquake last night." Earthquake, this is when the ground shakes from natural causes. And then I say, "Earthquake? You've got to be kidding. I didn't feel an earthquake." You've got to be kidding. Now, gotta is short for got to. You've got to be kidding. This is something else you'll hear in conversational English, but you won't see it in written English. You've got to be kidding. What this means is you cannot be serious. You've got to be kidding. For example, when I told my mother that I had won $2 million, she said, "You've got to be kidding." And then Joe says, "I know, that's what I said. He told me it actually woke him up last night." Actually here is just really filler. It has no meaning. It's not even needed in this sentence. And then Joe goes on to say, "You know," and then I say, "What?" And Joe says, "Yeah." Yeah is casual or informal for yes. Joe goes on to say, "It was like is just filler here. It has no meaning. It's not even needed in this sentence." And Joe says, it happened at like, this is filler as well, has no meaning. And he goes on to say, 4:42 in the morning, so we must have been sleeping. But I mean, this is filler, so it also has no meaning. It's not needed in this sentence. Joe goes on to say, "It's possible that, even if we had been awake, we might not have felt it because, maybe it wasn't felt, this far north. But I mean, I thought he was pulling my leg when he first talked about it. Pullin' my leg. First of all, pullin' is short for pulling. So you won't see pullin' in written English, but you would hear it more in conversational English. Pullin' my leg. Now this means making a joke by lying to someone and pretending the lie is true. Pullin' my leg. For example, when Chris said that he won $200,000 in Las Vegas, I thought he was pulling my leg. Pulling my leg. And then I go on to say, well is just filler. It's a filler word. It doesn't have any meaning. And then I say, I guess it's not so far-fetched. Far-fetched, this means unbelievable. Far-fetched. For example, when Chris said that he won $200,000 in Las Vegas, I thought it sounded far-fetched. Far-fetched. And I go on to say, considering meaning since, we live on a major fault line here. Major fault line. A fault line is an area where a lot of earthquakes happen. Then Joe says, yeah, but actually I think this earthquake was on a different fault line. Because, you know, Eric lives just south of San Jose. Now, when I say you'll hear in a lot of conversations, but it's not something that you would ever see in written English. But you'll hear a lot in conversations. San Jose, this is a city south of San Francisco. And then I go on to say, yeah. And then Joe says, and the earthquake, he said, was due east of San Jose. Due east. This is exactly east of some place. Due east. For example, Sacramento is a city that is due east of San Francisco. Due east. And Joe goes on to say, so he was obviously, or he was definitely, a lot closer to the epicenter than we were. Epicenter. This is the middle of an earthquake. Epicenter. An example of epicenter would be, the epicenter of the earthquake was Los Angeles, so there was a lot of damage in that city. Epicenter. And Joe goes on to say, so I'm not even sure it was felt here. And I say, yeah, that makes sense. Well, you know, I've experienced quite a few earthquakes in the past several years, but I've been living here a little over 2 years, or a little more than 2 years. And I say, I think I've only experienced one here. It was really strange, too. Each earthquake has been a completely different experience. But the one I felt here, I was standing outside a restaurant talking to AJ and another friend, and all of a sudden, it just felt like, all of a sudden, this is right away with no warning. All of a sudden. For example, I was driving my car when all of a sudden someone hit me. It happened so fast. All of a sudden. So I say, all of a sudden, it just felt like this shift or change. It's really hard to explain, but it made me think of like a cartoon. A cartoon is just animation. And I go on to say, like how in the cartoon, like buildings might just shift to the right and then shift right back.